All aboard!
Hey, what's up, everybody? You're listening to Cannabis Karaoke, where we ask you to grab the mic and tell your story. Get inside info from today's most interesting cannabis pioneers, and from the first note to the end of the song, listen up as you get to hear the stories of success on Cannabis Karaoke. All right, we are back with Cannabis Karaoke, and today's guest is we've been having some hitters. You know, I keep saying that on every show because literally every person I talk to seems to be banging. But we're going to be welcoming a stand-up comic, a cannabis stand-up comic, and a stand-up comic, a cannabis personality, a founder of Leaf of Faith Beverage, which is a over-the-counter stock that you can buy right now. And he's also the founder of Nug Life Radio, and you might all know him as Medicinal Mike, but I want to welcome Michael Boris, his official God-given name, to the show, man. What's up, you stoner? What's up, fucker? What are you doing?
My slave name.
Dude,
until it went legal, we couldn't even use our real names. That's why everybody has nicknames, from 6 years and beyond.
That's true, right? Like you had to give the cops any name you could to get out of the deal. My name's Medicinal Mike.
Medicinal Mike. Yeah, I'm a physician.
I'm a licensed cannabis provider. That's my job. Who licensed you, Mike? Who licensed myself?
Thanks for having me too on the show. I appreciate it, brother.
Fuck yeah, dude. It's been a minute. We've bounced off each other throughout the industry. You've always been an amazing dude, promotionally, physically, and just in all the things that you're doing. And I'm really excited for the listeners to kind of hear it from a guy that's like been in the space for a minute and also kind of take your perception. And then I also really want to congratulate you, dude, on your Leaf of Faith beverage company. That's fucking amazing, dude. Like that doesn't happen. That's not easy. Let's kick that business part of it off first. Talk about that, dude, because that's crazy.
2 long years. I mean, I can only say certain things unless you go, through your meetings with your board members and all that crap and put public releases out. But it took 2 years. Predominantly, we're a CBD beverage company, and we have 4 flavors. We're in a whole bunch of shops out here in Southern California, and we started in with V Group, which is VGID Beverage Company. We merged with them and then spun out into our own entity. And we're hoping to become the #1 CBD beverage company for fruit beverage in the world.
Global. When you dude, because that's early, bro. 2 years ago, like nobody even knew about CBD 2 years ago, technically.
Well, I've been preaching CBD, with the radio show for almost a decade now, where you actually at these events, I would host these giant mega events, and the whole show, mixed with comedy, is spent educating your audience on what CBD is, how it can help, and helping to get it to people who needed it, especially when you have children that are suffering from ailments. And we would drive it state to state to state, and moving our RSL around. Back before everybody was taking pictures of it and splashing their faces all over Instagram for votes or likes or whatever they're going after.
Yeah, because I remember watching you, we've been friends for a little bit, and I remember watching you post, your stuff and like just grinding every single day. And now give the listeners a little bit of like, so 2 years, publicly traded company, going global. It's not easy to do any of those things, let alone combined. Now you're seeing all these bandwagoners, right? Or people that are just, frankly, just,
when you come out, when you're one of the first to do a lot of things, before cannabis was popular and you were still frowned upon and looked at like some, dirty stoner if you're smoking, we created a lot of different concepts to see what would catch on. We were doing cannabis game shows and putting them out through YouTube. The radio show, live action series. We work with Martin Archer from Rick and Morty, and we're doing the animation. And you just have to, you don't feel like you're grinding because it's like, okay, one day a week we get to go out and be ghost hunters. One day a week I'm on stage doing comedy. One day a week, so it's always something different. So, and it just all happens to come out at the same time. But it's a lot of fun.
But how are you feel? What do you think about some of these other brands that are jumping on? What's
so here's the thing with this new generation. They're used to they need quick accomplishments. So they don't want to put any work into anything that's not going to pay off by the end of the day. So it's more of, I call them pretendivists.
Wait a minute. What was that again? I got to get my pen out. What was that?
Pretendivist.
Pretendivist.
So
okay.
Back in the day, we would go out to raids and we would film raids because nobody else was, seeing what's going on. It was dangerous for us. We would hold picket signs at the federal buildings. They don't do that anymore. They feel like prohibition is here. They can smoke, and everything's gone. They have never seen the medical side of it. They've never seen anybody suffering or, have given themselves that edge, or something deeper, so they just fake it out. Doing dabs all day on an Instagram with different products so people send you free stuff. That is not activism. That's not, you're not influencing anything unless you have pretty blue hair or, whatever. If they're watching, it's not for educational reasons. And the only reason that the cannabis community is where it is at today is through people that have pushed education enough to start swaying votes. Even though it's not where we want here in California, this is the crappiest legal, that you can call it. It's basically taking everybody out of business. But at least they're voting.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk right now about, driving through LA, for example. I was there last week, and you're driving by buildings that are not licensed, and they've got lines, and then then there's buildings that are like dispensary not open anymore. They have to be and then they're still probably selling out of there, and that's because the way the government is kind of set up how cannabis is regulated. And look, not to bang on the government too bad, but it's like they got a bunch of people that don't smoke weed probably trying to make the rules for people that want to smoke weed. So that's the first problem that we kind of have going on. And to your point, go ahead.
They're trying to find money.
Yeah.
They need money. And if they can't make money off you, then they don't care whether you're doing it or not. Once they find a way to make money, how they've done in California, and just extort the fees and the taxes so high, they just don't care. I just had a big old cop drive by me. Sorry.
Oh shit! Not to shout out where you're at, but where are you at right now? You're in Cali, right?
I live in Anza, California, where they just did 100 random raids, and now they call them Marijuana Mondays, and they go out and raid everybody. We're like the Humboldt of San Diego.
Oh yeah, dude. San Diego doesn't mess around down there. Those people. I remember way back when we were rolling through in Chula Vista. I'd go into a dispensary that have CPA and accountant, on the window, and the windows are just mirrored out, and then you go in and it's just 2 doors later, you're in the dispensary. It's like a speakeasy, and there's a little bit of action happening in San Diego, though. There's some dispensaries that are open.
I ran BMC. It was called Balboa Medical Center. It was the largest dispensary at its time in San Diego before the big raid 6 years ago. And back then you would work and you knew they were coming to get you. So every day you were just stressed out and tense until finally they kicked the windows in, they're ripping out the ceiling. They've got everybody on the ground. And coincidentally, I went out to get coffee 5 minutes before that happened. But, once we got raided, it was game over.
Yeah. So did you end up doing did you end up catching a charge for that or doing any time?
No, not at all. Actually, they just took a lot of money, a lot of marijuana, and it was have a nice day. And I never heard about it again. Man, those are the stories that all you listeners that are savagely consuming cannabis content at every angle, I appreciate that, very much. But you got to realize, people paid some dues. We got people that are doing, 20 years, 30 years and they're still in. Yeah. And they get forgotten about real fast. There's a group called POW 420. Adela Falk, she's running for mayor or Congress or something right now. But they spend all their time just writing letters to people who are on long-term nonviolent cannabis offenses and trying to help them with their legals and, get them out.
Isn't there already something? It's just a paperwork transaction from what I understand. As long as you don't have a nonviolent offense, all you listeners out there, you have family, and check it out. It's not like you have to lawyer up and go to battle. I think if you have a nonviolent offense and you're in jail right now, I think there's a way to get that commuted. Am I right, or am I?
And you got to imagine, though, the jail systems are privately owned. And if they released, I mean, how many people, what was it, 386,000 or 686,000, some enormous number of just cannabis offenders locked up. If they released everybody, they would go out of business.
Well,
so what are they going to fill with next?
And that's where we're messed up as a society. It's like we do the same thing to our kids. They really don't care if you're there. You just have to be there for attendance. And then if you disappear, it doesn't really matter. Nobody's doing any truancy. But we have to change that from making money incarcerating people and making money rehabilitating people. Because I think that the second half, I mean, the goal for prisons eventually should be that they don't have to only but house the absolute worst people. And that's just people. If you're listening right now, no fucking joke right now. Seriously, you got to realize there's people doing time for the weed you're smoking right now. So just go donate, figure it out, try to be part of the solution on stuff, Don't just jump on the bandwagon. Sorry, PSA over.
PSA, yeah, and learn about recidivism rate if you want to blow your mind. That's where they make their money, and once they get you, they'll let you go because they know you're coming back. So, and that recidivism rate is the rate at which people are leaving and returning, and it's more than are going in. They keep those prisons full.
Yeah, man, it's no bueno. Let's get positive right now. That was positive, but that's an activism thing. If you're going to get involved in that might be the thing I tell people, Mike, now when they ask me, how do I get involved in cannabis? Go get some people out of jail, start there and build your goodwill in the space, and the karma gods will bless you. Let's talk about your stand-up comedy.
Sure.
What type of, first of all, who inspired you? Second, best show, worst show, give me your times you were dodging tomatoes as much as people giving you standing O's. And then let's talk a little bit about the pain of comedy, and not necessarily associated cannabis, but it's really, I've been around a comedian my whole life and I've seen some bad shit, man.
Well, they say that bad parents make great comedians, So you'll find that comedians usually have had poor upbringings and very depressed, and they're using the stage as therapy. And the worst thing a comic can be is unfunny, because then they go out there for that therapy and that flow doesn't come out. And then they go postal or they start hurting themselves. But comedy's rough. It doesn't pay a lot. It's a lot of work. I mean, there's one time where I was doing 5 days a week of open mics of anywhere that, will put a microphone in your hand. I went to comedy school, Joe Charles. He's awesome. Check him out. I learned from Greg Dean. I went to improv school. I suggest going. If you're going to be a comic, put the work in. Don't expect to be awesome. And you get used to rejection real fast. Boy, I make it sound great. It's like a crappy travel brochure.
No, but there's that creative itch that's inside you, and it's evident if you follow Medicinal Mike.
If I wouldn't have started comedy, I would have been nowhere. I started comedy. I ran the co-op right next to the comedy, the Madhouse, which was the Comedy Palace at the time. Still the Comedy Palace, but the Madhouse moved out. But so I was next to the Comedy Palace. Loved comedy my whole life, and then I would listen to the people, doing stage work. And then I started just leaving weed in the tip bucket. They had a tip bucket. So I'd leave giant nugs in the tip bucket, making friends before I get on the stage. And then I started taking the classes. I did a couple of stage open mics beforehand just to see how bad it was. And it's horrible. They're on YouTube too. My first 3 times on stage, and it looked like I was reading a scroll.
I'm gonna link out in the blog just because one performer to another. You gotta love that stuff. That's the goal.
MD comedy take 1, MD comedy take 2, and MB comedy I think take 3. Or I don't know. It's like my first times, and I mean it's horrible.
How long ago was that?
Like 8 years, 9 years.
Yeah. But it's that creative piece of you, though.
To do comedy too, no matter how old you are, get out there and hit a stage.
If you've got that itch, man, 100%.
Yeah, it's the best, and it leads to other things. You meet people that start networking, then you meet writers, and you're like, if you're funny and they're funny mixed together, now you're writing something, and all of a sudden you're putting out scripts, or you're filming, live action shows, or creating comic books, or hosting weed events. Like, it all started because I got up on stage that first time, and did comedy. And because I was doing weed jokes and I didn't want my, real life to mix in, I went up as Medicinal Mike and never gave my last name for years.
Did you go up high, like just blazed?
Dude, if you see me sober, something's wrong. Something's wrong. Okay, just come up and give me a hug, because something's wrong.
Oh, man. So,
but I mean, everybody does. I would just do, and I'm not a dirty comic. Well, my comedy's more family, and it's like, I have
the
kids,
stoner family. Is that your new?
Family.
Is that going to be your new byline? Like, come see Medicinal Mike, the family stoner comic.
Oh, dude, if I can get all these kids doing comedy too, that would be great.
Right.
But old enough to smoke, at least like 8. No, kidding. Your little fingers can clean the seeds out of the bud without breaking the stems.
Oh my God. So, yeah, when you go up there, it's like not always the best comedians are the best writers, or the best writers the best comedians. So your point, it's like you kind of found inspiration from being passionate about it, and then you decided, I'm going to give it a shot, and then it does lead to other opportunities. Like, I'm not a really good rapper, but I've tried to do stuff like parody wise, just as a joke, and it's like probably should stay away from it. But when it comes to like hosting or interviewing or any of that stuff, like I do well at that, but I had to,
and that leads to talk shows, and then you're on stage, and then you're working Hollywood, and you're
right.
like, wow, this all started because I sat at my kitchen table with a voice recorder and decided to start doing something.
That's awesome,
with a purpose.
And then, so about how long did it take for that to start creating the creative juices to flow for writing treatments for shows? And also part 2, and don't mix them. Part 2 is, when did the hosting of events start to take place? So number 1 is,
all kinda,
go ahead.
There was nobody else really doing weed comedy when I started, right? So there was maybe 3 or 4 other people, and they were all just starting out as well. So when these events started popping up, they didn't have hosts. There was one guy that went out, I won't even say his name because he's garbagey, and he would go out and just, be there, and that got everybody else's juices going. So, I said I could do this, and I got up there. I started education and class and format, and just started with HempCon, and I started doing those shows, and then those shows led to Kush Expo, Boston Freedom Rally, Alaska Hemp Fest, Prague. I've done 9 countries in the last 3 years. Jamaica. I've been everywhere. Amsterdam, and then you meet the coolest people, and then they're your family, and now we're all booking together. So you end up it's like a high school reunion every show. But I did my first year when I started the radio, which is how I got my popularity. It was just about getting comedians stoned. And that was it. And I was hoping it would lead to more comedy bookings. Well, I had a famous person on the show that I did a comedy show with, that I won't mention, that decided he's going to do the same show. And he did. He still does it today. And we switched to an educational format. We hired in Dr. Wayne Kelly and Benji Cooper, and switched out the comedy cast. And then we were immediately picked up by KNSJ, KSFR, K-Bomb in Vegas. We were just everywhere almost overnight because we had just a touch, of comedy mixed in with this big education factor. So you were learning why you were laughing. So, and retain that information. And we took call-ins. It was live at a $500,000 studio. We were in the same place as Sammy Hagar with Envisage Radio. So, and then we were going towards XM. At the time, Tim Eagle, I think his name was, whoever the exec was, said that nobody's going to be interested in the cannabis. It's too illegal. So we started doing more weed shows, puppet shows. I mean, anything we could do and mix with cannabis with the equipment and the resources we had and the limited manpower, we've done it.
And usually I don't cross plug, but you do. What? What was that?
Weed wrestling.
Oh no, dude, that belt was bad. You put a lot of work into your stuff. And true stoner forum, you answered the second question first. So, but we'll stay on it for a minute. You put a lot of creative flow into the types of events you host and the types of, and I just want to say back to the, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, my friend. So if somebody's knocking your shit off, you know, like first to orbit, first to be chased, like whatever, however you want to metaphor you want to put on it. If you're not expecting to, you know, even if you're stumbling through and it's got success in your own mind, like somebody's going to come along and try to nuke that thing off and do it their own way. So you just got to let it ride and do it better.
Well, they don't see the detail to it. So when they see me, let's say hosting a show, what you see is me on stage, telling jokes, throwing free weed, whatever I'm doing. They don't see I'm also running the stage, timing the bands. You know, I'm working with the
there's production
area.
quality, right?
It's a job. Like I'm sweating. When I get to the stage, it's like my break.
For sure. And again,
I don't take free shit either. I don't want anybody's free shit. I don't mind a joint when I'm smoking and stuff, but you're never going to see a bunch of rigs being ordered to my house because I'm going topless on Instagram to get high and tell you that some Chinese piece of crap glass rig is the best in the world this week, and whoever wants to give me more rigs next week, they're the best.
All right, we're switching gears. Creative juices. So talk.
Yeah, ADD, bro.
No, it's just fine. I just you have a lot of topics I have to cover in a short amount of time, so I have to stay on.
Just steer me.
No, I know. No. Yeah, hey man, listen, it's true gold. I mean, this is what people hopefully are tuning in to listen to, as far as like being real. You know what I mean? It's just you can have people come on and do their canned discussion or their pitch, or you know, sometimes I don't even have dialogue. It just goes, you know, and the person just vents for 40 minutes. But the situation is on the creative side. So in doing the stand-up and hosting the events and kind of just getting knocked around in the cannabis space overall, like how do you find the creative willpower and desire and to write treatments for different shows? And when you guys are working on them, how do you look to incorporate people that you feel like, you know, how do you cast your shows? Like how does somebody like Medicinal Mike talk about the paranormal show that you guys were are you still putting that out? Or are you putting out a different one, or what's?
Yeah. We just finished one out there in Nevada City. We did the third largest gold mine, haunted too, man. Like I have a parapsychology degree. I started as a stage psychic like John Edwards at Caesar's Palace, Mandalay Bay. And that's at 19 years old. That's what I was doing, up until I was 23, I think. So I've always had the interest and the expertise in that field. And then I figured, let's mix it with cannabis.
I think it's brilliant, dude. It's like,
everybody's smoking cannabis anyway. We're just, you know, and we don't sit there and we're not silly about it. It's a silly show, you know, getting a camera guy to walk through a haunted gold mine first is just a fun thing in itself, you know, because he's scared. He doesn't want to go in. He's running out talking about something's in there. And, you know, it's not heavy on the ghost stuff as the comedy that leads up to it. So it's more putting together this weed ghost show. And then we fog it with CBD smoke to calm the ghosts. And
I love, dude, that's awesome. You could leave like a little altar with Leaf of Faith Beverage and just like put it like with some, like a little sage joint.
That's what he poured in the first show. That's what he poured in the fog machine. Fruit punch, patient CBD. And I'm like, bro, I was like, this is going to gunk up the machine, but it smoked out just fine. It had a nice smell too.
Dude, that's brilliant. So when you're first of all, I'm a big fan of the paranormal. Little trivia fact, May have shot a sizzle reel in Santa Cruz with some people. We went to a cemetery. Nothing happened, which was a bummer because I truly believe in it. And big fan of like all the multiple ghost shows. Some of them are a little cheesy, but some of them like they really do use some killer technology, and I think the parody component of what you're doing is perfect. And we actually have plans off air that, you know, we work on together, but you can see, and we're going to get back on that track a lot harder, but you can see most of Medicinal Mike's stuff on Cannabis Club TV, and it's good stuff.
105, I think.
What?
Channel 105.
Yeah. And this is the thing though, the content is good. It's not like, it's almost, I'm not going to say almost, it is as good as what a network station would put on if they were to put it on.
It's hard. It's hard because I'm directing from the front of the camera. And, you know, everybody is you know, you get what you pay for. They're all free friend volunteers. I try to get a famous person in with us every time just to drag them through. But it's hard, man. I mean, the fact that then I edit myself too. So it takes forever to get them out, because of the other shows popping out in between. But I mean, it is so much fun. This Nevada City one we just finished, you could hear, we brought a medium out. So now she's talking to ghosts and talking about she feels like she's choking. Somebody was hung in here. And this is the scariest underground mine and vaults and shafts. You hear screams like audible. You hear it all over the camera. And we have the great tech. We have the EMF readers, the EMPs, everything you would see on your typical ghost show, and or Scott Migdal, our engineer, he builds it for us. Builds it for us. He made us a reverse EMP, and it's supposed to get rid of the ghost. But,
dude,
made it from an old laundry part.
Dude, that is like, it's so brilliant. Like, it's like it's like the stoner way of trying to get rid of ghosts.
Well, if anybody's got experience listening in the camera world and all that, we are a volunteer-based company, and we feed you. We'll smoke you out.
Well, dude, you know how it works though in Hollywood. Like, if back in the day, if you wanted to throw an episode up, like, it was all self-funded, and you paid the network for a slot. You know what I mean?
I'm paying $1,500 per episode, which is the lowest of, it's insanely low for what it should cost.
Yeah, because seriously, traditionally, it's like, I mean, even Lawrence Kaufman from Trauma, that's a low budget for him. So it's like, to do it right, it's like $100,000, $200,000 an episode minimal.
Yeah.
And that's pre-talent.
It was 72 and they were doing my they wanted to do a documentary on me called Smoke and Mirrors and all this crap I'm doing, and it was $72,000 they were trying to raise for the pilot episode.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's ridiculous. I work with Lloyd Kaufman.
Did you really? I was toxic. I was a toxic Avenger one time.
Were you really? Dude, I was just in a movie called Halitosis, The Legend of Stank Mouth. And it's about a mutant who has a butthole for a mouth.
Oh, my God.
He's got like a butt on his mouth, and poop comes out when he talks, and he lives in the basement with his mother, and I get disemboweled and then raped. Well, I'm dead already, so it's not rape. It's necrophilia. And while the mother's true trauma. I mean, if you watch trauma films, this is the theme is over the top, grotesque, and offensive.
Oh, it's like Jello blood and just, really bad props and,
yeah.
But, dude, some seriously successful people have come through those annals. You know what I mean? Like, what the heck? South Park guys, Trey Parker, Mount Stone. Like, those guys were one of the first, people that started putting out. I can't remember they had like a cowboy themed movie out. Got to hang out with them a little bit before they were huge. You know what I mean? And it's like there's been some like really famous people circulate through there. And again, Lloyd's kind of mentality is like hard work pays off. Work your face off, and you'll be successful. And that's a lot of
super active. He's still, he's there on the film shoots, and I mean, he's been going for like 50 years.
I don't know, dude. That guy is the crypt keeper. I mean, I remember we did a premiere in Beverly Hills. I cannot remember the theater. It was like in the Hollywood area. It might not have been Beverly Hills specific, but we did a Toxic Avenger release. I went to 2 film festivals with him. You know what I mean? Like just because I was like, I would shoot paparazzi stuff for those guys. I would come in and do post edit. All volunteer, travel places, and taught me a lot like about the back end of the industry, how hard it is on the back end to actually succeed. And they held their own version, Sundance Film Festival has got 50 other slam dance, X dance, whatever it is. And so they held their own little film festival. I remember in this like really on the outskirts of town, as like in this like ghetto building, and that was Lloyd, man. And you're fortunate enough to actually got to do way more than me. Like that is huge.
What's the bong? Evil Bong or something is the one where the bong's alive and eating people or whatever. But we have the same makeup artist, so we were listening to stories about Evil Bong while he's painting buttholes in blood.
And see, that's really where your creativity came from, is just by pushing the envelope in your creative output. You know what I mean?
Well, you write so much. You'll write. And I mean, if you're doing just let's say a 30-minute episode, you got 28 pages or so of script. Now you want to see it, and if you love the script, you want to see it. So you call and you beg everybody you can to help get their time together and make these, and you hope that maybe someday somebody sees it. Or if anything, something cool my kids will like to watch when they're older.
Yeah, man. So the episode, you said 3?
Yeah, so you can watch Patience, which is where the drinks and everything started out from. Patience, episode 1, 2, 3, and 4. We did a Christmas one, and those are awesome. Like, I love the quality. I love how they came out. And then we started doing the Speakeasy live shows and the Surviving Chalice. I started doing shows about going to these weed events and actually, doing the show properly as opposed to running around like your first day at Disneyland.
Sure. Like a day in the life, kind of. Is that what you think?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Exactly. And, going to the booths, but not really talking to them, just kind of showing you what's there. And that one's called Surviving Chalice. I was at the Chalice Festival. Oh, we did Weed Smarts. So I went out to Venice Beach, and just like Street Smarts, I was asking random people dressed up silly, of course, asking random personalities questions about cannabis to see the education level of the community out there. And it's hysterical. That looks great. You can see that on, I don't know, YouTube or... No,
it's going to be on... It'll be on Cannabis Club TV. We'll talk after we get off and see if you want it to be... on 105. It could stay on your channel that you have, because we're actually building up the whole mobile and web play. I mean, I'm not trying to plug Cannabis Club TV, but we are where we want people to come, and I want people to be able to see your stuff, and we give it to them through the phone, through the web, and in dispensary. Maybe we could just live it on 105, or maybe it's its own channel. What other treatments do you have? You haven't even talked about Highly Ghosted. It's still called Highly Ghosted, right?
Oh yeah, Highly Ghosted. That's
I mean, you talked a little bit about it, but how many episodes are there of that?
I've finished 2 of them now, and we're planning on the 3rd. I believe we're going to go to where John Belushi died, to his hotel room, and out there in Los Angeles, and see what we can get out of there.
That's controversial. Don't you think that's a little controversial?
I hope so.
Because Jim Belushi's, his brother's alive and in the cannabis space.
Well, we treat it very much with respect. So we're not goofing. We're just investigating.
God, how rad would it be if he was willing to go with you?
Oh man, that would be awkward. No,
it would be though. It's a really.
I mean, there's so much. I'm sure there's so much feeling there. I'm from the generation, where Belushi was huge, Animal House, and just the comedy live, and and some of these kids today, they don't know where the roots came from.
Remember the scene in Animal House when the devil and the angel were on his shoulder?
Oh yeah.
That was the best.
Dude, that movie is.
I'm gonna watch it tonight. Actually, I'm gonna watch Animal House tonight.
All right, all nostalgic.
Yeah, I might call you and we might phone watch it together.
Dude, I'm so down. You're like a Mystery Science Theater dab out.
Oh man! So you're gonna do that? Just for the listeners' sake, where is the place of demise for Mr. Belushi?
There's a hotel in Los Angeles. Use Google. It's pretty popular. I don't know the name offhand.
And so you guys are going to film.
But I know it's room number 7.
Dude, that's going in. I read a blog every time, just a little quick, like why they should listen. And I'm going to put room number 7 in the title. Rad. So 2 are out. 3rd one's coming. What else? That's like 4 shows.
Sesh is real big right now for us.
What is?
Wrestle Sesh.
Oh, that's right.
So
Wrestle Sesh.
I have the first cannabis-themed pro wrestling.
So slow it down a little bit. Slow it down. So talk to people before you blow it up, because you need to build the anticipation with this, because it's one of the funnest things I watched happen, just through social media that you were doing. And so explain where the idea came from and like how it's rolling. Where'd it come from?
So as a child, I bonded with my family through WWF wrestling, Hulk Hogan, all that good stuff. This is before the internet, before they had more than 5 channels. Or we'd go to Madison Square Garden and watch it front row. It was a big thing for us. And then I grew up and I grew out of wrestling and all that fun. Well, I had the opportunity to be an announcer, because I do comedy. Another comic was an announcer for a wrestling show in a bar. So I went out there and I co-announced with them live commentary, and we had a blast. So I would go out and I would smoke out with all the wrestlers. And I mean, all the wrestlers, like all of them. We had like 40 of us out there in one huge circle. So I decided, we had these cannabis belts. I started creating these belts. And this is before we even had Wrestle Sesh, but they were lifetime awards or cannabis achievement awards for people who really deserved it, who did work. Ginny Harrer, Tommy Chong got one, Willie Nelson, one of the Marleys. I mean, just you had to do real work out there for no profit. Well, after a while of passing out these cool wrestling belts, because I liked wrestling and I liked cannabis, we did those at the Las Vegas Hemp Fest and wherever. I had the idea to mix the two and bring back the silliness of wrestling, the stories, and, you know, the way Glow Wrestling that's on Netflix, people are familiar with, how their storylines go. And that's, you know, this cop versus this, you know, stoner who was just released, wrongfully arrested after 10 years. And we created Wrestle Sesh when it was very illegal. We had booths, you know, weed booths going around the areas. And we started doing it regularly. We were paying the wrestlers in weed. And we have matches that are like the Iron Lung match. And that's where two guys are fighting, but they're smoking a blunt at the same time. And the ref will hold the blunt while they're punching. And one guy will knock the other down and go for the pin, but there's still half a blunt left. So the pin don't count. He's got to get up and he's got to smoke on that blunt more until that blunt's gone.
What?
And that's how the pin counts. So when whoever finishes the blunt, now you can pin the guy.
Wow, that's so rad.
So we do a slumberjack match is where I put 4 guys with dab rigs on the outside of the ring. And anytime a wrestler gets knocked out, he has to dab his way to get back in the ring. He has to do a dab. So I've been working with Steely Martinez.
And so that's the one that you're really on fire with right now, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That one right now is going actively in Colorado because the laws are a little different out there and we can still have our vending booths and everybody smoking.
Have you tried to do it? Have you tried to do it yet in California?
Oh yeah, man. We've done like 10 shows in San Diego. We go to Vegas. We've done them in New Mexico, Arizona. We're just quiet because we don't want to go to jail.
Sure. How do you get compliant though? That doesn't seem like it would be that hard. We could.
Well, I don't know. You know, I feel like once it's legal, it's not going to be as much fun.
Possibly, but dude, people love that stuff. Dude, I see people flashing their belts all over the place.
Oh yeah. We've got We've got a female.
Like you make
champion.
physical belts, people. These are not digital belts he's handing out. These are like.
Yeah, no, they're 30 pounds at least. They're giant. There's usually I have the main plate cut into a weed leaf, and I used to put sponsors on the sides, or you know, shout outs or memorials. You know, whatever I want to throw on those side plates. Triple leather stitched. Yeah, they're real wrestling belts.
And so you have just the 2 matches, the one where you smoke the blunt and the one.
No, man. We've got everything. We have, you know, the one where you hang the pound above the ring and they have to ladder match to get it. Just anything we can think of, you know, anything we can think of. And we had the upside downs. They had to do upside. We just did one at Bongathon. And Bongathon was insane.
Where was Bongathon? Where was that?
Well, Bongathon is a by invitation only event in Denver, Colorado, at about 99,000 feet up on this mountain. And they are, because, you know, mushrooms are legal in Colorado. So this whole place is done up with a mix of psychedelic theme, and it was just insane. I married a couple in the wrestling ring. I'm ordained, so I married a couple. Pretty sure everybody there was on mushrooms, the wrestlers, the referee. You know, I was announcing it legally on mushrooms. You know, birthday weekend. It was great. And then they wrestled, and we had a great show, and just insane. We dress them up, and we had Santa Claus come out once and punch his way out while he's smoking a blunt. And it was a real Santa, like from the fraternal order of the real bearded Santas.
Dude, I'm like dying over here trying not to laugh my face off. That was
if you haven't smoked
when
out
you
with
said
Santa
you were an
Claus,
ordained minister, just like, well, yeah, I'm an ordained minister too. It's like, geez, dude, like what haven't you done?
Dude, I do weed event marriages. So at these big events, we'll have, you know, the cannabis bouquet. We'll put up an altar. Pony Boy from Los Marijuanos was up there singing some wedding song, and we married this couple up there, and it was a beautiful, Tommy Lucero wrote the vows for me, and it was like, love is like a seed, and it must be nurtured into the plant, and they're instead of like, the candle ceremony, they're passing blunts back and forth. I was crying. And then we just did one in the wrestling ring, and we married 2 wrestlers, a male and a female. And now they're married for the rest of their lives.
So you realize you're a bio nightmare. Like when somebody wants...
I can't even, when people go, what do you do? It's like, I don't have time. I'm a comic. I'm a stand-up comic.
Because I'm looking at it, I try to take notes. I'm actually, after doing your notes, I'm thinking that every time I do a future interview, I'm going to do everything and then also take a picture of my notepad, because sometimes there's like nothing on the notepad. Like not nothing, but like nothing.
Right.
I always listen afterwards, right? I don't try to leave myself too many notes because I want to go into it, listen afterwards, and then peel what kind of I think the interview is. But dude, my thing looks like a bad crossword puzzle in an airport back of the jacket magazine. It's like,
man.
I got like these like stars coming off things like Michael Boris, actor, ordained minister, stand-up comic, cannabis personality, parapsychologist, founder of Leaf of Faith Beverage, founder of Nug Life Radio, and overall paranormal psychic. It's like, Jesus, dude.
If you check out also Candid Chronicle, it's the first actual newspaper for cannabis. It's based out of San Diego.
Who's doing that? That's
there.
not yours, is it?
That's Chris Williams. I helped heavily to create it.
So you write for it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I do celebrity interviews, and I write the horoscope, which is a cannabis-themed horoscope. Horoscope, whatever you say.
Horticulture scope?
Yeah, it's a horoscope. So it's a cannabis themed. So it's like some days, Leo, this week it feels like you're sitting in the circle and the guy to the left hands you a joint and the guy to the right hands you a brownie, and which one are you going to, that's just that themed kind of, and I'm actually doing your star charts and everything, but I'll theme it up so that.
And you just do it under Medicinal Mike?
Yeah, or Michael Boris.
Whoa, don't say your last name, bro. You said some stuff on this thing. We're going to scrub that, but.
Yeah.
But dude, just. But dude, this the thing is like, you could be like Medicinal Mike, parapsychologist and ordained minister, providing your horoscopes. Like, dude, there's a whole session like of that every day. That needs to be a video thing that we put up.
I used to do that. I used to, and I would do it on stage too, because I'm a great tarot reader as well. And I would read your cards while I'm doing comedy, making fun of what I'm reading as we go. Or I'll get on Instagram and I'll do a 2-dimensional cartoon of the character Burner from the Patience comic book that we do. And I'll talk as him live.
Stop. Listen, you do this. You don't even catch yourself. You're all, yeah, I do a comic book too. But let me tell you, so what's the comic book name? I'm taking notes, bro. Come on.
So the comic book is called Patience. I'll send you one.
Okay.
It's the one we're animating now, and that's with the Rick and Morty guys.
Okay.
So Patience is a great, high quality. My artist, Benji Cooper, did fantastic. And I wrote it, but hysterical. And we also do a Patience comic clip for the Candid Chronicle every 2 weeks. So you could see strips, 3-panel strips.
We have a lot to talk about off air.
Yeah. And then we have the animation, which is hard because we're a small team, but the guys that we've got have worked on Simpsons, Rugrats, just everything awesome growing up. And now it's just putting it all together. We're slow because we're low manpower, but the quality's there. Quality's always there.
Dude.
And then it's just waiting for the world to catch up.
Fuck. It's a lot of shit, dude. So where are you going next? What's up for Medicinal
We're starting
Mike?
a cannabis daycare. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, my God.
No, I'm not kidding. What I'm doing now is I'm getting my company squared away. I stayed off camera for the last year doing that. I've done little stuff, I did the little movies and stuff, but I'm not doing as much stage comedy because now it's notarizing and board members. But the animation we're doing currently, the Highly Ghosted we're doing currently, Wrestle Sesh is, I think tomorrow night out there in Colorado. And then, just figuring out how to get it all done and keep on doing it.
No, so are you hosting any events coming up?
I'm no manager, I just do it. I keep my mind occupied.
Are you hosting any events in the near future?
Yes, we have one with Usher. This is in Vegas. This is one of the bigger ones. It's October. You know, you'll have to check my Facebook or Instagram. But I know Usher's there. I know they've got Mike Tyson, and it's all cannabis themed. And it's a basketball. There's a basketball event, a boxing, and then we're going to do the Wrestle Sesh for them as well, which is a lot sillier and
I
real,
can
like
find that on your Facebook.
Yeah, you will this week. They're just ironing out the details, I guess, with Usher or whatever, but I'm allowed to say it. And then there's a show coming up in November, the Planet Green CBD Expo. That's also in Vegas. That one's, I think, like November 3rd. And they've got a bunch of people there too, Kid Rock or somebody. I don't know.
So we'll make sure we include that in the blog.
Comedy and playing and throw free stuff.
I'm gonna actually make it a point to come to one of those two. I really want to.
The Wrestle Sessions. If you're going to anything, come to the Wrestle Sesh. We'll put you in the ring. We'll make you like the manager of somebody.
Oh, dude, let me be I'll play some role. I would be stoked to play a role.
Oh yeah, and we won't let you get hurt unless you want to.
I don't care.
We'll let them. Yeah. If you want your chest slapped up, they love doing that.
Oh God,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to work out a little bit so things don't jiggle when I get slapped.
That's my biggest fear, man. Always wear a tank top when you're working with wrestlers.
Well, dude, I want you to tell people where they can find you. You have I want you to air out every single one of your social media handles so that people can find you. And so take the stage.
105 on Cannabis Club TV. You could see me at the Candid Chronicle if you want to read our stuff. Medicinal Mike on Instagram. That's usually where I post everything to. Facebook, if you know my mom. And I mean, just, we're on everything. So just look up Nug Life Radio. You can hear that on KNSJ 89.1 in San Diego. Right now they're doing replays until next week when we start cranking up the show again. It's going to be a little different this time. We're going to do a lot more dad role, I guess is a way to put it. So
did you say dad? Dad?
Like a dad role, we're just, like you said, it takes a lot of work and you put in a lot of effort and you earn your spot to where you're at.
Sure.
And there's a new model coming out of these people that are taking what isn't theirs. If you go to a Lifetime Achievement Award and you don't know why you're winning that Lifetime Achievement Award, you shouldn't be accepting a Lifetime Achievement Award or a show that gives out 40 of them at a time, and that's just the new thing. Everybody's just trying to gratify themselves, and they got to be kindly reminded that there's still work to do. And, if you don't want to do the work, fine. There are people that do, and that's where we're going to make sure that spotlight goes.
And I think that's an appropriate ending to our hour. And, man, dude, you dropped some bombs on here as far as like just working your face off and being super creative and doing what you love and combining cannabis with all of that. That's exactly what we're all about. And thank you for being on the show today, man. It's been amazing.
No, thanks for having me, man. Just never stop. Don't let people that tell you can't do anything, and just keep grinding at it, because the worse it gets, the better it's going to turn out.
Amen. Talk to you soon, Mike.
All right, brother. Thanks for having me.
That's a wrap. Thank you for listening to this edition of Cannabis Karaoke, another kick-ass podcast about all things cannabis. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, and our website, cannabiskaraoke.tv. And if you or someone you know would like to be on the show, please hit the book your interview button on the right. Cannabis Karaoke. Grab the mic and tell your story.
Wow!